How can we reimagine parent-teacher conferences? What are the issues most responsible for burning out teachers today? And what are some rhythms and activities that can keep our fire for teaching alive? Welcome back to another episode of the Teachers on Fire podcast, airing live on YouTube most Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. My name is Tim Cavey, and my mission here is to warm your heart, spark your thinking, and ignite your professional practice. Today's Teacher on Fire is Jeff Smith. Jeff has taught in 12 schools over 32 years with high school courses including mathematics, pre-algebra through AP Calculus, AP Comparative Government, Human Geography, and U.S. History. He writes about teacher whitespace on Substack on Teachers Unmuted. Connect with Jeff on LinkedIn and on Substack at jeffuson.substack.com. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Are you, my friend, ready to light it up?
I'm ready. Let's light it up.
All right. Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. As I said to you a moment ago off air, I've just been really enjoying the tone of your writing on Substack. And so I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us in the audience and on the replay. We're going to jump right into it, Jeff, with this question. You talked about rehumanizing, and first of all, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I wanted to put your blog post up on the screen, so let's do that. Here it is. It's called Whitespace Resistance. We don't have to be customer service reps. And your byline here says, our most powerful move is to stop acting like someone owing parents a performance. So right away, I sort of like the attitude that you're bringing to the conversation. Tell us about that first question and the title. You say, structurally, parent-teacher conferences make us customer service reps. Explain what you mean.
So all of the white space stuff operates from three basic questions. Number one, what is the system taking or what is it expecting of me? Number two, what control do I have still or what move do I have? And then number three, what's the white space move? What is some micro experiment I can try that will give me more autonomy, more humanity, more curiosity, whatever your thing happens to be. So with parent-teacher conferences, they would love us to start parent-teacher conferences saying, Mr. and Mrs. Cavey, Jones Middle School is here to serve your child, blah, blah, like the commercial thing like you get if you call it 800 number, right? Mm-hmm. But what we really want is a human connection. Right? Like right. If your son or daughter was in my class, I would want to know more about you two, more about your child, communicate that I see them, know them, they know me. I want to make something different than just a customer service exchange, if you think about that. And we'll talk about this in a bit, but with conferences, for example, I've learned I need to have a story that communicates to the parents exactly who I see their child is, whether it's related to school or not. And then I also need an open-ended question, right? That gives me more of the backstory, more of who they really are, maybe outside my classroom. I teach math, so a lot of times kids come into math with plenty of shields up and filters and whatever. So,
got it. So I think you're sort of, and I don't want to sort of put this or frame this incorrectly, so please set me straight. But I feel like part of what you're writing about here is, we're restricted, we're limited in a lot of sort of what is normally acceptable. Do I have that right? Like it's sort of very benign kinds of thank you for your feedback. We're here to support. Yes. Let me walk you through the data, but we're not really getting as real as you would like us to get. Do I have that right?
Right. I think especially if it's time constrained. I mean, we've all been in different situations. Right. If you have a 10-minute conference, yeah, I think you have to be super intentional about what you're trying to do and making sure you're protecting time for parents to talk. Right. So, yeah. I've been like you. I've been in a lot of different schools and seen a lot of different situations. And as a parent, sitting on the other side has been fascinating too, because you realize, oh, this was a performance, and I don't know that anybody got what they really needed out of this.
Yeah, that's true. It's so interesting for the teachers out there. And I think that's a lot of us who have been on the other side of the table. That is an interesting experience once that starts happening. So Next, you start to call us towards something called whitespace, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you mean by that. You talk about whitespace as a place where teacher agency re-enters the room. So what can this look like for teachers, and why is it powerful?
So I give you a quick example from a couple of weeks ago. I had some pre-calculus quizzes that I needed to get finished, right? I'm grading them. And so I got to school a little bit early, not super early, but I was looking at about 15, 20 minutes to knock these things out, right? And of course, open my email, which is a mistake. And there's oh, hey, this 5:04 meeting got moved. Can you be down at 7:40 for a quick, meeting? And immediately it felt like a theft, right? It felt like, wait a minute, they're stealing my time, and my boss is a great guy. It's not like he purposely put it there, but I've learned to stay with that feeling, like hang on to that for a second. Why does it feel like a theft? And that's the awareness piece, right? And then thinking about like, why does this feel the way it does? It's because I've wanted to get those tests back to my kiddos, right? Like I have an internal value of, if I can turn around that grading and help them with their misconceptions in a timely way, right? Maybe not the next day, but within 2 days, they're going to be so much better off as we move forward in this math class or even further ones. And so that's an internal value, right? The system didn't tell me that. I hold that myself, just like you hold yours. And so then what's the white space move? What's the experiment? And for me, at least that day, I was like, okay, I'm going to grade until 7:40, get as many of them done as I can, and show up 5 minutes late. Like I purposely was there, at 7:45. And again, white space is not rebellion. It's just recovery, right? It's resistance to gain ourselves back, right? I don't know if I'll get in trouble, right? Like I went to that meeting, I might have an email coming back like, hey, it started at 7:40, you were there at 7:45. I didn't end up getting, pushback, but it's anytime we can connect back to ourselves, right? To our own humanity, our own creativity, our own curiosity, even in those small little spaces, I think it rehumanizes us, right, and our students.
I'd like to put this part back up on the screen. So you talk about white space, saying it's not a simple pause; it's a refusal to rush, to over-explain, to jump in and carry emotional weight, not ours to carry. So again, I'm still working on this term white space. So I'm kind of thinking about calendars. Is that where the term comes from when we have white space that's not blocked out on our calendar? Or are you thinking of just white space on the page? Help me understand the metaphor.
Yeah, both of those. What I really started was if we're in a compliance structure, it's trying to say, do this, right? In this 40-minute class, X, Y, Z. Where's the white space, right? Like it felt like where do I get to meet kids at the door, for example, and name every student? There's nothing there's no script telling me to do that. I just know this is who I want to be. These are I want to say every kid's name and look them in the eye, even with teenagers, if I can. So to me, white space means the place that doesn't have the text or the writing. It could be, like an org chart is a great example of. It might say the principal so-and-so, but to get something done, like, oh, I got to get Karen, on my side. She'll make sure it happens. Like those are white space moves, right? So that's how I think about it.
Okay, got it. All right, next you talk about, and you hinted at this earlier, but let's dig into the one story and one question. You really say this is key to humanizing that conference, and you're right. Often they are only 10 minutes. So getting into that space, I'm sensing that you're saying that we need to really clarify or narrow our focus. Talk about the one story and one question. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I'll give you a quick example. I've changed the names of kids. This did happen though. I had a student a couple weeks ago, Kevin is what I'll call him, and his dad tragically passed away. Like had a stroke on a Saturday. I think was like passed away by Wednesday or something. I mean, it was just awful. And so he has a friend named Landon, and if it was Landon's parents in the conference, I would say to them, hey, I know you heard about Colton's dad. I want to make sure like Landon stayed by Colton's side the whole week when he came back. Wow. So again, just a quick story that shows you see that kid, I think is worth way more than, Landon's on grade level and here's his areas of improvement for academics. That all those questions can happen too. but that human connection of, look, I see your kid. I know some of who he is and what he's doing. I think is critical. And then the question keeps me from talking the whole conference, right?
Okay.
I think a lot of teachers, we get scared, like we just don't want to be yelled at, right? We're trying to get through the 10 minutes sometimes.
That's true.
And so if you ask an open-ended question, like Landon, for example, if I had his parents in front of me, I would say, listen, he's pretty quiet in math class. What lights him up? Like, what does it look like when he gets excited? Not that it'll necessarily ever happen, in this class, but and then just let them talk, right? If parents start talking at the 5-minute mark of a 10-minute conference, that's a win, right? I mean, they're going to feel heard. You're going to get great information that you wouldn't get otherwise, and the game is on.
Yeah, so good. Those are great examples, and I completely agree. I think there's something so powerful about letting parents know that we see their child, that we actually know them, at least to a small extent. I know as a high school teacher, you probably see quite a number of students, but at least that you sort of can recognize them, you see some part of them, that really connects with a parent's heart. And it also means a lot to the student too. So I like that idea a lot. Thank you for fleshing that out for us.
For sure.
We've got a comment from someone, Don Julio, saying, is that Jeff Smith? Well, welcome, Don Julio, wherever you are coming to us from. Thanks for joining us this morning. All right, so moving along through this, you also write in this piece about burnout. And hey, my brand is Teachers on Fire. I'm all about keeping the fire going and not burning out. You actually write here, teachers think what's burning us out is overwork. No, and I won't spoil the rest, but help us understand what in your mind is the true cause of burnout, or one of the main causes, let's say.
So go back to conferences. I think is a great example of potential burnout, right? If
Sure.
the parent really wants me, most parents, not all, but many parents want me to turn to their child and say, Tim, you got to get your act together. Your parents aren't being unreasonable, X, Y, Z.
Right.
The student's hoping that Mr. Smith turns to his parents and says, Mr. and Mrs. Cavey, you're being unreasonable. Like, your son's doing a good job. Like, back off, right?
Right.
If I make either one of those moves, I'm in trouble, right? It's a short-term gain for a long-term problem.
Agreed.
My job and my old boss in Friday Harbor, where I used to work, close to you, used to say, we have to partner with parents. We have to give students what they need, not what they want. And that means doing my work. One story, one question is how I do that in the conference so that everybody else can do their work, right? Mm-hmm. What burns us out, in my opinion, after 3 decades in this deal, is taking on everybody else's work as if it's my own, right? I don't know any teacher in my building right now who's afraid of hard work. Mm. As long as that work connects with students, connects with what they're trying to do, connects with the educational piece, right? But if it's 30 hours of online training that we have to do to be legally, whatever, where you watch these videos and say I know legally we have to do that, but is that really helping the mission, or does that burn us out, right? Like, yeah. So it's not hard work. It's work done to what purpose or on whose agenda, I think, is really, and that's why whitespace to me is a big deal, because we're not going to say, hey, forget the K-12 system. We're not going to work in it anymore. We all want to be teachers, but where can we find those places where our heart comes back into it, or use your word, our fire comes back into it in the right way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. I think that puts it brilliantly, because I agree. A lot of the educators, all the educators I know and work with, are hardworking people. They love kids. Mm-hmm. They're committed to the cause of learning, but it's those extra hoops, isn't it? Those extra tasks, or those places where we feel like we have no autonomy and this is not advancing the mission, as you said. That can really bring the disillusionment and the burnout for sure. Well, thank you for joining us, educators. If you're finding value here, give this video a like. Jeff, I'd like to transition to your work on Substack. That's where I came across you. your blog, and I'm still somewhat new to Substack, so I'm not sure if you call it a blog or a newsletter or it's something. It's a page
One
on
of those.
Substack, but it's called Teachers Unmuted. And one of your bylines or your subtitle is "The Conversations We're Not Supposed to Have." And I always have to sort of give that a little chuckle when I see your emails show up in my inbox. There's a little bit of the rebellious there, let's say. So where did that come from, and what's the spirit behind that?
So I would argue there's two major conversations happening in schools. One is the official one, right? It's in the faculty room or teacher lounge, and it's agendas and logistics, and conferences are happening in 3 weeks, and we're going to have 3 days off for Thanksgiving. The nuts and bolts stuff. But no one's really saying how they feel or what's really going on in those meetings. It's not necessarily structured for that. And then the second conversation is the one in the parking lot, right? Where I say to you as we're getting in our cars, like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This has been like the real.
Right.
And I'm not putting that on administrators. I don't think they should change their staff meeting to do that. But we are having those conversations, right? We're human beings and we're trying to connect and help each other. For me, Teachers Unmuted is a place where we can do that through Substack, online, person to person. And there's a beauty in not necessarily knowing the person at the school. It's not in my own school district, right? I'm talking to you in Vancouver, and I have other people that are in Colorado and whatever. But those conversations are still happening, right? So I'm very much. I've been in a place where I didn't want to teach anymore, right? That's definitely happened over my career, and the ways that I've gotten out of that have been because of other people, whether they were teachers or mentors or whoever, helping me and listening and hearing. Basically saying back to me what they heard me say, right? It wasn't that I was fixing X or Y or Z. So that parking lot conversation, I think, is the more important conversation.
Yeah.
So,
and I think there's such a value in finding those conversations outside of your building. We all enjoy our own colleagues and, as you say, the literal parking lot. But then there's also the broader space of educators with a like mind that you connect with in these different professional learning spaces. You're making a great space in Substack that is growing, and there are other platforms as well that facilitate that too. So yeah, I know I've gained a lot of encouragement since probably 2018 or so. I started reaching out beyond my own walls, and I found a lot of fire there. And I'm finding fire in work from people like you as well. So thank you. One more question about that, and I should throw up I love the image you've got here right at the top of you out on the water and with the beautiful mountains in the background. I feel right at home with that kind of imagery for sure. You're actually making me, Jeff, look forward to summer already, which is a little too early for that. But
in November, huh? Yeah, that's good.
That's not great for my mental health, I suppose. A long time to wait, but yeah, talk about the act of writing, because a lot of teachers think about, oh man, Substack, Medium, writing about my practice in these different spaces. When I leave the building, I just need to check out. But talk about, I have to imagine this has been a rewarding journey so far. So share with us what the rewards have been like, and also what are your goals for the blog as it continues to grow?
So I was working on a doctorate in education from right before COVID hit till I think it was February of this year is when I dropped out of that program, because I couldn't get a dissertation written. Like I tried, I had much help, it just wasn't happening, which was really a debilitating thing because I'd been in educational spaces and been quote unquote successful in those up until that point. But I really didn't want to write anymore. Writing my writing muscle was broken, if that's the right metaphor.
Sure.
And then I picked it up. I started my Substack, like really consistently writing in I think it was June of this year. Have a business coach who's helping me a lot, both crafting stuff, but also like figuring out who I'm trying to help and what I'm trying to do. I think the connection with people, as you mentioned, Adrian, Ruth, there's a whole bunch of people like you, like I can name that, like it's a sacred space, not to use a religious term too much, but there's other teachers out there, or even education people, they may not be teachers anymore, who are trying to bring their humanity to their students' humanity every day, and it's just a powerful place to be.
It is.
I've learned a lot of things over 32 years, and I think I can save people, I
Yeah.
don't know, 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's something I've always believed: if I can get the words on the page, they're going to make more sense. It may not, I write to problem solve, right? Like teacher conferences. I hated them for years and years. Like whenever they would come around, I'd be like, oh God, just try to survive. So when you put them down on paper, what's going on there, right? Like that's and Substack hasn't been wrecked yet. Like I think it's
Yeah.
it's a beautiful space still, right? It's not
Yeah.
Facebook or Twitter or any of those other ones.
Yeah.
Long term, I'd love to coach teachers. I really do think I have something that's valuable to them. I've made $0 in that regard with Substack so far, but that doesn't matter. I'm still writing. I write 4 or 5 times a week. And I would if I had 0 subscribers. Honestly, I mean, people say that, but there's just something powerful about putting yourself on that page or your experience on that page, and then having other people either disagree or agree or say, well, this is my experience, whatever, is just huge.
Yeah, and for those who are, maybe you're listening or watching and you're not sure what Substack is all about, it really is, I mean, it started as a writing platform, but it's diversifying a little bit. So I think, Jeff, you've been posting audio clips, I believe, if I have that right. Yes.
Yep.
And you can post videos. It's still built primarily around writing, but there are other ways to share content as well. Well, Jeff, I can't speak for your coach, but I hope over time that Teachers Unmuted becomes a podcast and a YouTube channel.
Me too, that'd be fun.
I really hope it goes in those directions too. But thank you for your work on Substack, and I do hope it continues. One last question, Jeff. I know part of your mission here on Substack, on Teachers Unmuted, is just caring for teachers and helping to build sustainability and keep teachers on fire. So let's talk about that. What are some practical rhythms, routines, and activities outside of school that keep your fire burning as an educator?
So there's 2 in school that one's a little corny, but it really doesn't matter. And then I'll talk about the other ones outside. In school, I literally look at myself in the mirror in the morning and say, Jeff, you are exactly the teacher that your students need today. And I might have to say that a couple times, but I think there's so many things in our system, cultural memos, subversive messages, whatever, that we feel like we're not enough. We're not doing enough. We're not working fast enough. Our data points aren't where they're supposed to, whatever. Yeah. And understanding, like, no, I get to be in that room with them and them with me. That's how it's supposed to be today. Is I try to remind myself of that in the calm, right? Not in the chaos of class. The other thing that I think is critical is not taking work home. My student teacher, however, early 90s said, you can come in early and you can stay later, but you're not allowed to put the science book and the math and all that stuff in your bag and take it home. And I've, by and large, followed that for most of my career. There's times like with APs, for example, you get into April and those tests have to get back to them the very next day because you're up against the clock. But for the most part, I think that taking stuff home blurs that line between I'm here at school and now I'm home. So I try, as much as possible, right? Outside of work, I think it's really important to have a life that you like, right? My girlfriend is a big dahlia farmer, so we're digging tubers this afternoon, right? Like I'll be out there with my pitchfork finishing that. Nice. I read a fair amount, especially not education stuff, nonfiction and fiction. And then I also picked up, I had a pretty dark time when I dropped out of grad school a couple months ago. It was a rough couple months. And I picked up origami as just a creative hobby that's been super fun, right? Like, and a lot of times I make stuff, like I was trying to make something last night that I'm going to have to start over, right? It's not going to work, but so what, right? It's just been a beautiful kind of fun hobby to pick up. So I think you have to have those things, right? I think if school becomes all that you are and all that you're doing, that's rough.
We're all in trouble once we get there.
Yes.
Absolutely. We've got to be more than our work.
Yes.
And I love hearing about those hobbies. Absolutely. I'll just say, and it's not to open a debate here, but the way I think about leaving work at school, I'm with you on that, with this caveat that I talk sometimes to teachers about something called Parkinson's law. So the danger, I think, Jeff, is if we say, I'm going to stay in the school building until the work gets done.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, be careful with that.
Yes.
Because you can be there at 9 p.m. So that's
Yes.
the only
Yeah.
the only asterisk I would put there. Well, Jeff, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm excited about Teachers Unmuted, and I hope many of my listeners will give that a Google and locate you on Substack. I think you're bringing a lot of value there. One last time, let's talk about how can people connect with you. You're keeping it pretty simple right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on Substack. There's a LinkedIn connection, but I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And I try to put, most of my time and effort into Substack. The beautiful thing about having, I think, 93 or 95 subscribers, wherever I am right now, I can answer everything that comes through. It's really nice to be able to, even likes, you can say, thank you for liking a post or a note. So the connection with teachers is that's the special juice, right? That's the magic.
That is the magic, and I thrive on that so much as well. Sounds good, Jeff. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with the podcast today. This conversation has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to reading more, as I've said. Teachers on Fire, I'm your host, Tim Cavey, and I'm grateful that you too decided to spend some of your day listening to this podcast episode or YouTube video, wherever you are finding this content. I hope that in some way the substance, the topics you heard about today from Jeff Smith sparked your thinking and ignited your practice. And I'll meet you next week right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast. Take care, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye.